Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Matrix version of the Art of Inspired Selling, where you know what, I'm going to have to call my service provider because this is week 3 in a row where I am doing a Matrix version of Sloth Catherine Nunez, host of the Art of Inspired Selling. It's working now. I don't know what we did. Maybe it's being jinxed correctly. So welcome to the Art of Inspired Selling, where I, Catherine Nunez, interview successful 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs. And I ask them if they are interested in delivering their subject matter expertise to you, the viewer, so that they can help move that needle on your business. Maybe you're stuck in something. Maybe you have a question about branding, about sales, about marketing. This is the Art of Inspired Selling, by the way. And today is no different. I have brought together for you someone, and her name is Isis. I love the name. She is going to talk today about finances. Isis Latham is a teacher, a networker, a financial Mary Poppins. Everything she does is about building personal relationships. In her work, she's focused on finding financial solutions as a financial advisor, mentoring and growing her team of talented financial reps, and lighting up other businesses through meaningful networking. You'll also find quickly that she's all about family. Have a keen eye. She has a keen eye for fashion, and she gets pretty animated when it's time to learn something new. Me too. I love to learn. So no matter your age, stage, or dilemma, she'd love to have a conversation and get to know you because she's excited about her future and yours. So let me bring her on. You guys, if I disappear during that, it's because I'm in slow motion and it's so annoying. But I'm bringing on my guest, Isis. So nice to meet you.
Oh, Catherine, I am just thrilled to be here. And thanks for lightening my mood, right? We get so intent on our objectives and what we're doing that sometimes we just need a sloth moment to
We do.
remind us that there's a lot of things to be happy and joyful and laugh about.
You know, since I've left corporate America, we are entrepreneurs and we can run our businesses and our culture like we want to. Like we have been through hell and back in the past 2 years. So it's time for a little bit of joy and laughter and authenticity and get out of the stuffy boardroom with the white collared shirt and the black jacket, which all I have on today, by the way. But you know what? Let's have fun. Let's have fun and enjoy ourselves. So welcome to the Art of Inspired Fun Selling. Tell me about yourself. I gave a brief introduction. Tell me about what you're going to talk about today.
Sure.
And just a short background about yourself so that people are ready to go, because we don't want to spend this whole time about your bio. You guys can read about her. This is all about delivering value today. Tell me about yourself.
Well, thank you, Catherine. I never knew that becoming an entrepreneur was going to mean talking about myself so much. And because I never came from the boardroom and that was not my home was actually always in some form of entrepreneurialism. I was that kid that wanted to make money. So I figured out how to have a book sale. And, I'm talking about like 8 years old. Then as I grew up and got a little bit more mature, I said, oh, I want to be a photographer. I'll take pictures at weddings, right? And then I was a teenager. Not to, say that I was on par with any of the other photographers that were out there, but, I was resourceful. Then as I continued to grow up, I became a mom. And I started a childcare. And that was the first time that I felt like I really stepped into something magical. I took the resources that were around me and I started to apply what I had available to, that inner grit that we all have. And it started to connect. And that was super exciting. It taught me about self-development and awareness, and it caused me to get introspective. And then as I grew up a little bit more, the children grew older, then I moved into owning a toy store. So I owned a
Fun.
educational toy store. Yeah,
Yes.
super fun. Think of like homegrown FAO Schwartz, like before it was what it was. That was kind of me.
Now it's
Then
no longer. When I took my son Jordan to New York City, my older son was playing in Carnegie Hall, and one of the most exciting things was, oh, I get to take the boys. I think FAO Schwartz was closed, or maybe there's one left in the whole U.S. now, or something. Anyway,
wow.
I'm digressing, but
Well, then that kind of is the way of the world, right? So that experience, what I had created, it was no longer sustainable. I had added in a clothing boutique. I had created this mecca of a space where people could really have fun. And it was experiential, and people were shopping and supporting what gave them the experience. Enter in 2008. Well, it was like watching an oncoming train. Your feet are tied to the tracks. And, that moment of, I can't. Well, I couldn't get out of the way. It flattened us.
mhm.
And so I had my first massive failure in that moment, and I almost didn't come back from it. So why a financial Mary Poppins? Well, because if you have a financial Mary Poppins around you, you've got the spoonful of sugar, you've got a little medicine going down nice and easy, and you've got a resource that's going to help you bounce back. So I became what I was looking for. Not to say that there isn't other options out there that are just as good, but we have to embody it. And so that was my journey.
So, you guys, as you're joining, stop, give us a message. This is live. We want questions. This is going to take questions. We've got somebody on Twitch. We've got Facebook people. Come on. We want to hear from you if you have any questions. And if we're not seeing them, then we'll go back and answer them later. So, where do you live?
I'm in Keene, New Hampshire.
Keene, New Hampshire. I have never been to Keene, New Hampshire.
It's a little city, quaint, a little bit elegant, right? If you're on Main Street, it gives you that old world kind of vibe. And we have a big college, Keene State College, which is pretty popular around here. I don't know that you're coming from all over the country to go there, but it's raising its standards, definitely.
That's great. So, one of the questions I ask all of my guests as they come on this show is, what inspires you to do what you do every day? Did you have an affinity for numbers in the past? Or what drives you? Morning routines, books, backstory. You just told us a little bit of your backstory, but what drives you every day to keep doing what you do?
Right. Well, what I talked about was the struggle, the challenge, right? Why? But that's not the why. The why is the desire to be something magnificent and to do something in the world that makes a difference. But what made that come alive for me
Mhm.
was listening to one of my teenage children say to me, Mom, when we're rich again, oh, what a
Yeah.
way to live, right? So, I want to impact women, right? I want women to feel like they can do anything. I want women of a certain age to feel like they can do anything. I want women who have had children or not to feel they can do anything, regardless of your race, religion, background, right? Like none of that should matter. Your education, we can't change a lot of these things. And so what we have to do is we have to find the people who are going to empower us and help us to become who we really are inside. And so I know I was born a 10, but I know that sometimes I don't play to that level. And so every day I start over again and I go, all right, how much are you going to give? How much can you accept from other people and help to achieve your goals?
We're aligned in that. In that for sure. All right. So in our promos for the show, there were a few things. Tell me what you're going to deliver today, and then let's get right into the first one.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to be talking about know your worth. Think identity, role, and ego. Oof. right? Like that's a hammer coming down, especially
Yes.
when we're talking about money. And yet I'm going to talk about it from a whole different standpoint. So if you want to be worthy, wealthy, and independent, then continue to listen.
All right. So you have a presentation. I'm going to
Yeah.
bring that up and I'm going to
Oh,
change.
good. I thought I had to
Yeah.
do it.
Isn't that fancy? Like, I got
Well,
it.
great. And
I
how would
got
you
you
like
here.
me to let you know that I want you to move forward?
You can just say, Vanna, next screen, please.
Vanna, all right.
Just kidding.
Well,
But I
and
am going to take myself off of camera since I'm going in sloth mode again, and I'll come back anytime I want to interrupt you. So
okay, great.
the floor is yours.
I always say everything with me is a dialogue. So if I start running on, you just interrupt. Okay, Vanna? All right. So you need to notice that there's a little bit of information here, right? There's that EBD. Well, that's evolution business development. And I hope some of my EBD friends are on here right now. So give a shout if you are and let us know. And now go ahead to the next one, Vanna. So, what is exactly your worth? And you might have heard me say, "Hey, I'm a 10." That's not me being egotistical. That's actually the opposite. I am leaving my ego at the door and I'm saying, "Hey, I was born to be this way, and it's my responsibility to show up in the world knowing my intrinsic value and delivering from that." Next. All right. So I want you to enter into this experiment with me. You're looking at this baby, this newborn baby, and you're just thinking, oh my gosh, this is an incredible little being, right? And so on a scale of 1 to 10, I ask you, what is that baby worth? Well, obviously, anything but a 10 would just be ludicrous. We know that this baby was born to be an amazing human being, and they don't have to do anything for us to believe that. Go ahead. Now, it's so easy to do that when and to come to that agreement with yourself that this little baby is a 10. But when you hold the mirror up to your own face, I want you to ask yourself that question. Are you really going to be able to answer as a 10? Well, anything but that would just be ludicrous. And so I want to get to the point of why I'm talking about this, why I have to remind myself of this every day. Go ahead. And it's because, I told you about where I came from and that these circumstances I hadn't earned well. I didn't provide as well for my family as I wanted to. I'd been knocked down. I got back up and I tried to figure out how to keep on going. And sometimes we don't follow through with our word or we say we're going to do something and then we don't. And so you're thinking, if you're like me, well, but that's not a 10, right? I don't do everything perfectly. And what we have to do is we have to start to understand that there is a role and there's an identity. And what I've just referred to is all roles, but your identity is who you were created to be. And that remains a 10 regardless of everything else that's going on. Next, please. So, we're defined in so many ways. We're mother, we're father, we're employee, we're employer, and business owner, a friend. And so each day we have this responsibility to figure out how we want to show up. And just bear with me for a minute here because what I want to talk about next is that a 10 like you, and oh, go ahead to the next one. A 10 like you can take on any role and get better, right? Because we can practice. We can find new tools. We can read a good book. We can develop better habits. But internally, we have to know what our worth is so that we'll be able to choose the next step. We'll be able to take action and apply that action to the goals that we have. Next. And so I started learning about this process called transactional analysis. And what really helped me was I would say, well, why is it that sometimes I show up in my role so well, right? I'm an adoring parent, I'm thoughtful, I'm caring, I'm loving, I respond gently. But then other times, all of a sudden it just shifts. Or I'll be at work and I'm working with a client and I suddenly get triggered and I'm responding differently than I wanted to. I'm fearful, or maybe I'm judgmental, or any of those experiences. Not that that would ever happen to me, right? But obviously we have to work through all of these different emotions that are going to come up. And so when I started learning that there's actually three people that show up in any given environment, there's the parent. Now, think about your experiences with parents, right? Not all of us have had excellent experiences. There's the adult, and notice there's nothing written around the adult. An adult is an adult. An adult is mature. They're they're not ego driven. They they know how to just respond to the present rather than bringing in past or future fears. And then there's the child. And there's so much going on with the child. There's the natural child, the adaptive child, the rebellious child, the little professor, right? And go ahead to the next one if you would. So we have to first be able to isolate who's showing up, right, in that moment. Is it the parent? Well, now you have to ask yourself, okay, is this the right environment for the parent to be? Is it a space for me to be parenting somebody? And if I am parenting, I might even be a critical parent if that's the way I internalize parenting. Well, if that person shows up, if that person is the parent, meeting with a client and you're trying to close that big deal, you're trying to get to a six-figure income, you're trying to, get on your way to a seven-figure income. I am going to ask you to really look at, is that the right environment for that parent to be showing up? Or what about the child? Do you know a child, right? The child ego is the permanent record of your responses from the first 5 years of life. Think about the way that all of us responded under stress as a child, right? I want that piece of candy. I'm going to stand in the aisle and stomp my feet until I get it. Or what about the adult? I love this. What a great way to look at it. It's a collection of rational and reality-based communications. Now that's the person that's going to get their goals, right? That's going to meet their goals, that's going to get the sale because they're going to know their worth. They're rational. Next. Keep in mind that the child ego state is not bad, right? We just have to know where it belongs. It's fun loving, it's affectionate, it's curious, it's creative, it's playful. That's the natural child. Then you have the adaptive child. Oh, this one's not so in, uh, you know, pleasant, right? It's insecure, dependent, fearful, cautious, angry, frustrated, or the little professor, deceptive, ruthless, manipulative. That's why that ego state is so dangerous to bring to a business meeting, right? If you've ever read anything about Sandler, he talks about, he's in the car and he has to leave behind the little child, right? We're not talking about leaving a child, but his ego state of little child needs to stay in the car while he goes in on that business call. Next. And then just to describe a little bit more of that parent ego state, because this one often tripped me up, right? Because we want to be nurturing and protective and loving and encouraging. We obviously don't want to be self-righteous, intolerant, or demanding, but it's easy to think that this is the adult, right? Because we're striving to become that nurturing parent. And so we think, oh, well, the adult just showed up and everything is good. But then all of a sudden, the other person starts to feel like we're mothering them, right? Well, that's not a good relationship. Next. So let's bring it back around to that desired state, the adult ego state. It's based on and developed from trust. It's reality-based, logical, and intellectual. Anger or other strong emotions may not exist. So have you ever found yourself, you lost the deal, you didn't perform at the level that you wanted to, and all of a sudden you started beating yourself up? You may have been in adult ego state, but then you started to move into either the child or the parent, right? Maybe especially the critical parent because you didn't do that right. Am I ever going to learn? You start having this inner dialogue. Well, as soon as that starts to happen, you're no longer in that reality-based, logical, and intellectual, and you can't have trust, right? Because who do you need trust with most? Yourself first. Next. So now that I've unpacked this, right, and you're starting to go, oh yeah, I was in a situation recently, and yeah, I started to fall into one of those patterns, and I didn't get the results that I was looking for. Or maybe you did, but you're just thinking, why was it so difficult? Why did I feel so drained afterwards? Well, I want to give you some tools. So, adorable dog, of course, but what do you do in order to interrupt the flow of things and bring it back so that you're in control, not controlling, but in control? So let's say, and I love doing this when I can role play, but let's say I'm talking to you right now. And 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 what if I were to ask you, Catherine?
We
Catherine,
can role play. I'm here. If you want to
awesome.
do some role, I'm here. I'm always up.
Catherine,
I'm always up to be vulnerable on camera to 3,000, 30,000 people. Let's go.
so Catherine, if you feel like I'm just barking up the wrong tree, will you let me know?
Like in a meeting, if I felt like you were barking up the
Yeah,
wrong
well,
tree.
even here, right? Because I could be delivering something that you were like, this wasn't what I wanted.
It depends. It depends on the person, and I believe that I would course correct somewhat,
Yeah,
but wait till afterwards to give valuable feedback.
awesome. Well, I want to encourage people to ask those questions, right? To let the other person know that you're an adult. So as an adult, I'm sitting here and I'm going to be able to say, hey, Catherine, I'm feeling like, or I'm sensing, right? To use those words to be able to draw out what's really going on underneath the surface. Because here's the thing, an adult doesn't try to mind read. They don't expose themselves in that way where they're trying to mind read what the other person is thinking, or going, oh no, I don't know, am I doing this right or not, is it appreciated? They'll just ask that question. So Catherine, I'm feeling, or I'm sensing that you'd like me to move on to the next slide. So go ahead.
Mind.
Here's another question that you can ask. And, I heard somebody say, I'm going to bring in a quick story. I was in this round table and I heard this woman say that she was in a one-to-one meeting with a man who was in a similar industry as she was. And she had taken the meeting and she sat there and listened to him tell her all the reasons why he was better than her. And I listened and I listened. Of course, I'm laughing and smiling. And as I'm listening to this, because she's speaking so confidently, he didn't get under her skin. And so I asked her afterwards and I said, what was it that made you feel so strong in that meeting to just speak up and speak your truth? And she said, I asked good questions. I got curious.
Mm-hmm.
So I love to talk about how to ask questions, just easy ones that you can have at the ready, like in your holster, right? Just whip it out. Hey, would you mind if I shared with you? Right? Like just being able to course correct and bring it back. Tell me a little bit about why. Oh my gosh, recently I asked somebody a question and well, actually, I'm sorry, I've got to back that up. He was speaking about something and I said, "Oh, will you tell me a little bit more about that?" And the answer I got was so different from what I had assumed inside of my head. And I just thought, thank goodness So have these in your holster. Go ahead to the next one if you
Well,
would.
I'll comment now that I've taken myself off of mute. What I have found a lot that happens now is people are hiding behind chats and messages and social media posts and emails, and it's hard to ask those questions without looking at somebody eye to eye.
Yeah.
Right? To read their body language, to hear the intonation of their voice, to understand if they're being vulnerable or bullyish or mansplaining or whatever they might be doing, right? Unless you can see that person, there's the art of communication. Some of those nuances are lost.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that'll be a topic for another day, how to write a question in such a way that you get a thoughtful response, but that you don't come across as being pushy.
Right. Assertive.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Will you go to the next one? So these are a lot of words, so bear with me. But I want to just show you something that is so interesting. I was working on a difficult conversation that I had had. And I was asked by a coach that I was working with. And he said, would you mind if I suggested a new way of saying that? And I wrote it down and I just loved it so much that it was literally one word difference. Let me ask you a very important question. Since you're doing something you haven't done before and you're working with me, and I've done this many times, would you have any problem with me giving you direction and telling you what to do? Now, what a difference it makes when I say, let me ask you a very important question. Since you're doing something you haven't done before and you're working with me, and I've done this many times, do you have a problem with me giving you direction and telling you what to do?
Isn't that interesting? Because when I hear a coach say something like that to me, I kind of want to throw up. I'm honest. I could tell they've been through coaching training when they say, would you mind if and then I know they're going to coach me, right? They're asking for permission. Now that's
probably
only
didn't
because,
say, would you mind? That's my language.
That's only because I know my personality type and I'm more of an outlaw, and I just come right out and say it.
Yeah.
And so that's how I like to receive. Like, I'm like, don't beat around the bush and placate this, girlfriend. Just tell me what you need to say. All right. We're not sugarcoating shit. I don't have time for that. Help me be a
So,
better person or something. But yeah, I see the
yeah.
formality of this and how you would probably earn more friends speaking to somebody like this. Yes.
Well, you know what's so funny, Catherine, is that you just caught on to exactly what was going on behind that conversation. Was that sometimes, believe it or not, the reason that I have struggled in the past and, am imperfect today, is that I try to be so nice and placate and all of that, that I don't get the job done. And what he was saying is find your power, be you, right? You don't need to, oh, would you? Or, when we start off that, thank you, right? Like we don't have
Like
to
the
do
other
that.
saying that drives me crazy is when someone goes, "Thank you for sharing."
Uh-huh.
I want to go, like, I don't know if there's a button. Yes.
Yep. Well, and right there, you're like, who is showing up? Thank you for sharing. Like that's that child who's saying, I need everything safe and secure, and I don't want to rock the boat, and I want to make sure that I am okay. And so we're what do we have to do? Well, especially as women in these industries, we've got to learn to find our voice and use it
Maybe I have
and
mine.
be an adult.
Yeah.
All right, would you go to the next one? And so this is another example of that. Hey, I've found that sometimes after one of these sessions, if we don't have a next step, blah, 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 right? I found that sometimes after one of these sessions, that when we don't have a next step, we just never get around to it. Hello, adult, right? The adult showed up in the room and they are going to make sure that this $1 million plan is going to happen. All right, next one, please. So let's face it, we've got all these facts versus our potential. And I'm going to share this. This is me being vulnerable. I would spend so much time worrying about, oh, what is this person makes so much money, they're so smart, they've got so much education, right? All of that. And I'm just admiring the heck out of this other person. And here's the thing. You've got to check your identity and your ego at the door and come in as who you really are. And I'm going to say it again. Be the adult in the room, because the other person wants to communicate with one.
Mm-hmm.
Next one. So you're a 10, but the other person is still dominating the conversation. Mm-hmm. This has happened to me before, right? Because I'm super empathetic and I'm thoughtful and I smile a lot and I don't want to rock that boat. So what do? Next one. Be direct, be quick, and most of all, inside of yourself. It's like planting a tree and rooting it to the ground. Decide that you are okay walking away. Because authentic communication between two adults is not manipulative. It does not say, this is my agenda and we're going to have my agenda met no matter what. No, we each have our own needs. We each need to have them met. And if we're not the right people to meet them for one another, then it's okay to part. And we don't need to feel guilty. And we don't need to be apologetic. We can just walk away and still be friendly and thoughtful and confident.
Yes,
So
that's good.
next one, and then we're going to wrap up. And it's just about authenticity. People are always watching. Are you really showing up both in your words and your actions in a way that is in alignment? Right? If I'm being weak in how I'm talking, but strong in how I look, they don't match up right. or vice versa, right? If I'm kind of doing this and I don't really want to, be seen, or, oh, I don't know. But it happens all the time. I run networking groups and people who I know are skillful. Oh, I don't really have anything to say. No, find your voice, right? Make sure that everything is matching up. And it all starts with knowing your true identity and being able to accept that. So I want to thank you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for taking the journey with me. We're all a work in progress.
We are. And I wish that at maybe, just so I was a late mom. I'll just say that. When my baby was born, I had to tell the nurse, could you just change that first diaper? Because I don't know what the hell it is I'm doing. I showed up for my birthing late. I mean, I was like busy washing the baby clothes.
Not enough time to make room in the schedule for it.
I got a thing that's going to happen quick. But there's no book, right? At age 20, you adult this much. At age 30, you adult this much. At age 40, you adult. I mean, it is a journey. We are on this path together. It's so good to have presentations like this, right? To be able to learn, to hear somebody articulate what you might be feeling, because you might not have heard the word or had a way to articulate it. So thank you for bringing those things to people so that they can understand that there's different ways, and they can turn on their curiosity and their brain and think in different parts of their brain, and lower anxiety. And, we're human. If we didn't learn anything in these past few years, is grace and being a human and showing up, and just saying, I'm not feeling so good today. Or, can we reschedule, or can we push, or I'll be here, but understand, as long as it's not a pattern that you fall into, like some victim mentality. But being transparent and authentic is so important. So Isis, tell me about how people work with you, what you do. I know that around the financial department, there's sometimes rules. So tell me a little bit about what officers, what offers you. And I've been under the weather for 2 weeks.
Officers.
Yes. Tell me about your officers. Are they good looking? Because I'm single,
I have a few officers for clients, actually. And it's funny, like we were just talking about, right? Our ego and our fears and all of that. I used to be scared to work with certain clients. You know what I've learned? The more successful a person is, usually the less they know about money. And even if they know a lot about money and they know how to make it and they know how to use it, right? There's going to be these places that they just didn't get the knowledge and the information. And that's what I do. I help people fill in the gaps. I help them write a money story that's worthy of living. And so that's why I talk a lot about worthy, wealthy, and independent. You got to believe you're worthy first. Then you have to go through the process of creating wealth, because it doesn't happen overnight. And then you get to have real independence. And so I tend to work with women entrepreneurs a lot. We're drawn to each other. We know each other's story a little bit, right? And we are vested in helping each other to grow and to strengthen. I also work with families. I help them to be able to have that money conversation for the first time sometimes, and where we're talking about a budget. We're talking about debt elimination. Like, that's not fancy, exciting stuff, but how much better to do it with somebody who's coaching you along the way, who's able to hold that space in the room as an adult. The next would be, people who are starting to retire. That can be a really good opportunity where they want to have that trusted person. And so all of that comes from a one-on-one conversation. And there is nothing that I would want to say even that in this environment about it, because everybody is unique. There's no one size fits all out there. One piece of information in one person's hands is gold, and in another's, it's coal, right? So, but if you find yourself thinking, yeah, I like this woman, I want to talk to her some more, I think we could have a good conversation, then the best way to do that is reach out to me. Yeah, that's so small. I'm sorry.
Let me type it. Or
I'll
yes.
just give you my phone number,
Okay.
603-554-4399. Text me, call me. Just don't do it after like 10 o'clock at night, okay?
So that's the best way to reach her.
It really is.
And on LinkedIn.
Yeah, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. And if you're a business owner, if you love to build relationships and network, come visit us at Evolution Business Development.
Oh, let me write that down.
Biz Devo.
Say it again.
It's a free community that we have built. And I say I founded it with my husband, Jason. But, it would be nothing if it weren't for the amazing people who show up.
It's called Evolution Business Development?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, or you'll find the website is Evo Biz Devo.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Evo Biz.
EVO BIZDEVO.
We have a little commercial going on there. .com, net, or
.com.
.com.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap the show.
Thanks
so much for coming on and talking about that. That was important, and I hope everybody found value. We've had people hopping in and off. I like kind of going off screen. I can play in the back on all the tech and watch everybody and comment and interact. If anybody has any questions for me about being guests on the Art of Inspired Selling, we're also doing our first sponsors. It's super exciting. We're going to be talking about ways that you can get involved in the Art of Inspired Selling. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Watch out for our emails where I can promote the guest that's coming on, because I'm here to give you what you need to not be stuck and to once again move your needle in any way, shape, or form that I can provide value to you. So thank you so much. I say stay on, and I'll talk to everybody next week. Thank you so much.